Hey guys, I want to talk about league play. I do not play league anymore. I haven't for a very long time, but I did really enjoy it for quite a while when I was first starting to play, and even once I became a pretty good player. I was stationed in Omaha, Nebraska. I got there at the end of 1986. In the beginning of 1987, the APA League, it was called the Bush League back then, sponsored by Bush Beer, came to the Omaha area. Very good time. I was excited about the opportunity to play in a league and, I guess test myself. That was part of it. But I want to talk about some other reasons that, me as a young man, I was 21, about to turn 22. I wanted to be in a league for, there were pretty girls in the bars and in the league. So that was a big part of it. But I was a player that I kind of felt like I had a lot of potential for growth, but I was still kind of a beginner level. So I was looking forward to getting into a situation where there's going to be a lot of players that are as good or better than I am. And I can either learn from them directly, ask them a question, and they'll answer me maybe, or just by watching. I was also in a situation where there were players that were, less skilled than I was, and I was looking forward to the opportunity to help them. And part of that was, well, I do like to help people, believe it or not. And the other was, it would kind of force me to get my thoughts straight and get my brain right to be able to say the words correctly, so someone else could hopefully understand what it was I was saying. Those are the two big things that I got out of league, I think, was learning and, I guess, teaching, mentoring, I guess. The social aspect was very cool. The competition aspect could be very cool. It was nice to be in competition every week. I got in the league. Of course, it sucked to lose, but I took that as motivation to, well, don't do that again. Try not to lose again. As it turned out, I ended up not losing very many league matches when I lived in Omaha. I did lose my very first ever match though. Um, so yeah, that kind of sucked. Anyway, once I moved to Seattle, I became more involved in the APA, and I ran the APA league in South King County, Washington. King County is where Seattle is. And at the time, it wasn't a Bush League anymore. It was the Bud Light League, sponsored by Bud Light, but it was still the APA. And at that time, I was a pretty established seven. I had been one of the top two or three best sevens in Omaha, and I was one of the top two or three best sevens in the Seattle area. Not anywhere close to the top two or three best players in Seattle. I'm talking about league players, okay? Um, and that I kind of had a little bit of the same thing. Some better players, some really good players that I can learn from and watch and stuff. I can do some mentoring, things like that. The social aspect was still there. The competition itself was still there. But as I was more and more involved in the running of the league, the day-to-day running of the league, I got I got a little bit burned out by people cheating, sandbagging, and by other people accusing other people of cheating and sandbagging. And there was a beat. Did you hear that? It got to be pretty, I guess, stressful trying to deal with somebody that's saying, hey, man, I just lost a match on the hill, so that guy was clearly a sandbagger. Well, and I'm thinking, well, no, you lost on the hill. That means that the handicap system must have worked out pretty well for you guys in that case. Oh, no, he's a sandbagger. Well, I've watched this guy play, and I don't think he is. It's kind of trying to juggle this kind of thing. Every night I would flat out catch somebody sandbagging. And in most cases, they were out of the league. At a minimum, they got a fairly stern warning about it, and they immediately got jacked up in skill level. This just happened. I do not like sandbaggers. I do not. And I'm not going to apologize for that, because pool leagues would be a lot better. Handicap pool leagues would be a lot better if everyone was just honest and just had fun. I mean, that's really the whole point of the league, is to try to have fun with it. If you go into the league with the intention of, going to the national tournament in Las Vegas or wherever it is, you're probably going to be disappointed. Most teams do not make it that far. A lot of the teams that do make it that far get there by cheating, sandbagging, stuff like that. And then guess what? They get to the national tournament and they get caught, and then they're forfeited out of the tournament. But meanwhile, the people back home that have been playing legitimately, they're not there. So, did I mention that I hate sandbaggers? I just don't. One of the things that I guess I got a lot of complaints about when I was doing the league, besides the sandbagging stuff, were the fees. You have to generally pay to play in the league. That money would go to, like in my case, to paying me for the administrative stuff. It is a business. A lot of the money would also just go back into prize funds and trophies and things like that. But the price of playing, it went up quite a bit. In the 8 years I was in Seattle, it went from like $1 a night. They played to like $5 a night. It's probably $10 a night now. I don't know. I haven't played league since 1988. And people were always like, well, where is that going? Where is that going? I can tell you, I certainly didn't get rich off any of my league stuff. I got by, but I certainly did not get rich, and I had other jobs at the same time. I needed other jobs. So for some people, that might, I like to get in league, but I can't afford it, and I can absolutely understand that. Some people might be like, well, yeah, I'd really like to get in league, but there's so many cheaters. I don't like cheaters. It's there, but it's not as bad as maybe even as I make it sound like. Most people in all walks of life are honest people. You're going to get some people that are not honest. You are. But you're going to get them in a pool league just like you're going to get them at work or at the grocery store or whatever. You're going to run into some people that are going to be trying to game the system and stuff like that. And I guess you just have to have a little bit of a thick skin and be able to deal with it and not let them bother you. Don't let what this person does affect how I feel as a person, as a human being, whatever. Easier said than done in a lot of cases, but I think that's kind of the goal. I always liked the social, the teaching, the learning, the competition. If you're in league and you have to play every week, and you have a team, probably a team of your friends counting on you, that can be some extra motivation to improve. Especially if you lose. Man, I don't want to let my team down again next week, so I'm going to practice harder or whatever needs to happen. It can give you that motivation that you might not have if all you do is go to the bar and just shoot by yourself, or in your basement and just shoot by yourself. Get that little bit of extra motivation. It can be very cool. Sometimes people are just flat out going to lose. There's always somebody better. Unless you're literally the best player on earth, there's always going to be somebody better. And even the best player on earth can have an off day, and his opponent can have a really good day. So even the best player on earth can lose. This can happen. And that could, once you learn that, hey, everybody loses, and hey, I've lost, and yet I'm still alive. I still love the game. it's not as scary of a prospect anymore. You still don't have to like it. You probably still should not like losing, but you don't have to be so worried about it. Oh, this will ruin my life if I lose this match. It probably won't ruin your life. And these are the kind of things that league can teach you, both in your own play and watching somebody else. They really wanted to win this match because they hate that opponent. They hate that person, but they lost. Okay, are they still alive? Yeah, they're still alive. You learn these things, and that's definitely another benefit that league can give you. All this competition, all these different personalities, all these different situations that you can get every week and watch every week. That it might take you 20 years to have the same amount of experience if you were not in league. That's just kind of my thought. I really enjoyed league, especially when I was in Omaha. I enjoyed it quite a bit when I was in Seattle until all the accusations of everybody sandbagging. Just it got to be a little bit too much. Actually, I mentioned before I lost my very first ever league match in Omaha. We were both unrated in the APA back then. If you're a male and you don't have a rating, it's a race to 3. And I think I lost 3-2 that time. I might have been 3-1. I think it was 3-2. So my very first match I lost. My very last match in league I also lost. It was early 1998. I had just come back from New Orleans. I lived in New Orleans for 6 months. I had just come back, and the old team that I had been playing with for several years, they didn't have room for me anymore. APA has what's called a 23 rule. If you add up the skill levels of the players that play that night, it can't be over 23. Well, when I was in New Orleans, a lot of my teammates, I guess, probably had to pick up the slack of me being gone. I was the best player on that team, and now they didn't have room for me under that 23 rule anymore for a 7. They didn't have room for them. So I had to get on another team. And it wasn't people I hated or whatever. It was people I knew. I knew everybody from the league. But I don't know, we didn't gel or whatever. Anyway, I lost my very last match. They ever played, and I thought, you know what? I'm looking at my team, and they're all, man, we heard Dave was really good, and now he sucks, and that was what they were. That's what I was getting off their faces. They weren't actually saying that, but I didn't feel any sense of camaraderie or anything from that team. So I was like, okay, well, that was it. The match that I just mentioned that I lost, that was actually the last match of that session, of that fall session of the APA. So I just didn't join in again, didn't join the spring session, and actually left Seattle and moved to Memphis. Never got back in the league there. Moved back here after 6 months. Never got back in the league. Oh, when I was in New Orleans, I did play in the BCA league, which is a little bit of a different format, but it was still a handicap league, except whereas APA is individually handicapped. I'm a 7, I play a 5, so it's a 5-3 race. I have to get 5 games before it gets 3. In the BCA, it was more of a team thing. I don't remember the exact formula, but we would all play, and then there'd be some kind of a team. I don't know, some kind of a team handicap that get applied. If my team won by 50 points, but the handicap system gave them 55 points, then they beat us by 5 points. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was a different type of handicapping type of thing, but there was still sandbagging in BC. There was actually more when I lived in New Orleans than I ever saw in Seattle or Omaha. And that might have just been because it was a little bit easier to hide. Could be. I don't know. So that's, I guess, my rambling mess about league. I enjoyed it a lot when I was a player. And I think it has some real benefits, especially if you want to become more serious. going to become a better player. And I'm talking about from beginner to a decent player, not a professional. I'm not going to recommend that, Efren join the APA or anything like that. But I think you always want to get a little bit of exposure to various players and various skill levels and things like that. And league is a very good opportunity for that. And I'm going to shut up now because I am definitely rambling. That's it. Thanks, guys.